Well, here we are. Lo and behold, it's Sunday. It's the 10th of November. 30 days have September, April, June, and November. So we have 10 days into 30 days to the month. So far, we can see on my Funkin' Wagnalls here. Whoops. There we go. So far, we have California that has, there are some congressional districts in California that can either flip or become this is for the balance of power in the House of Representatives. Clay Shaw, the late Clay Shaw, marvelous man, but passed away a little while ago. My daughter used to work in his office in Capitol Hill. You walk in the front door, she was right there on the left side. And her friends sat right on the right side. So you had these two spectacular looking young ladies on either side of the main entrance of Clay Shaw's congressional office, which was, he was there like 18 years, so he was spectacular. Yeah. Anyway, so he explained to me how important it is. I think you need 218 representatives to have, the House majority. And if you have the majority, then you basically set the agenda for actual laws that, go through the system. The Senate can, have meetings and all this kind of stuff and, pass a bill, and then they can send it down to the House, and the House can say, we're not even going to take it up. And then that's the end of it, because the House has to approve it with a majority vote. All right, so that's one of the advantages, the key points of the House of Representatives. Another one is, which is something I learned from Clay Shaw, because I'm not a constitution. I'm a scientist. I wasn't really a constitutional guy, so to speak. Let's add Jimmy to this scenario so we can. There we go. I'm over here. Good morning. It's 9:06 a.m. This is a simulcast. We're broadcasting right now on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Twitter Live. Now, and I have a telephone here, which I'm going to currently, that's the one thing I forgot to do, on Bluetooth. I have to connect Roadcaster. And we're trying to connect Rise to Roadcaster Pro, and we are connected. And this is the slider that we move up on that. Just in case someone calls, we can actually take the call and bring it right into the broadcast booth here. Slightly overstated, just playing games here. Anyway, so the balance of power, is very important. And one of the, you see over here on the left side of your screen, the balance of power. Yeah, the House. So far, it's 213 to 202. And California and Arizona, I believe. California, Arizona, I have to check on Nevada. But those three states, maybe Washington and Oregon. Anyway, they haven't I know California, Arizona, and Nevada haven't counted everything yet. One of the states is like at 90%, another one is 85%, another one is like 70%. California, for God's sakes. So, and there should be some Republican pickups in California. The magic number is 218. If you have 218, then that party is the. Let me turn down Epidemic just a little tiny bit. We are streaming Simulcast, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Twitter Live. Yes, all 3 social networks are carrying this broadcast live and in color with high definition TV. Oh, yes, we are. And low latency, even though we're not a game. Anyway, the balance of power. What's all that about? Well, if the Democrats, for example, had 218, which would be a flip, meaning that the House of Representatives would be in control of the Democrats. Anyway, whichever party gets 218 members, that would be a majority. And then all 13 of the major committees, that party is the chairman. So the senior member of, the Finance Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the Budget Committee, there are 13 major committees. And depending on how many Republicans, I'm just going to pick that up as an example, because currently the House of Representatives is in control of the Republicans. And all the senior members of each of the 13 committees are chairmen, and has the power to control what the heck goes on in those committees. So, and it's all or none with the chairmanships. So if the Democrats have 218 in this box that says 202, if that number becomes 218, then let's get the right vocabulary words, the ranking members of those 13 committees are then chairmen. And the non-ranking members, there's a word for that one, and it escapes me. But you got the ranking members, and then you have they're all ranking. Of the 13 committees, you have a ranking Republican and a ranking Democrat. Well, depending on who has 218 or more, because all these elections haven't been all added up yet, that ranking member becomes the chairman of that committee. All 13. They have different ranking members. They have different members of all these committees. Some House of Representatives people can be on, I believe, more than one committee. Now that's a little bit of a stretch. All right, let's move on from that. So that's why I have that big box there. Let's go, since we're talking about it. Yeah. So here's the next important one. Producer, let's go full screen, please. Remember, the people that are managing this broadcast, there's 3 of us. We're split personality. Me, myself, and I. Yeah, are the technical people, the producers, and of course the talent, which we use that in quotation marks. Talent is the question. Yeah. The other 2 guys are doing pretty well. All right, so you notice this, we've made this full screen so you can see it. Donald Trump, Republican Party, I'm reading across, 312 electoral votes. That's done. In other words, I don't believe there are any more outstanding electoral votes. Well, let's add them up. And Kamala, 226 electoral votes. She loses. Donald Trump has 312, 270 to win. So he's got 42 more electoral votes than he would actually need to win. That's considered a major victory in the electoral college. Anything 300 or above is considered a landslide, as they use that term. Yes. Okay. And Kamala has 226. Look at here. Look at the popular vote. Let's expando that a little bit. So the top one is Trump, and the one here is, there we go. Let's get that over there. That's the final results. Look at the popular vote. 74 million people. 74.6 million people voted for Trump, and 70.9 voted for Kamala. Now, I believe those numbers are going to change because there are, I believe, 5 states. I'm going to say the entire West Coast. I'm just going to, haven't been fully counted yet. They're still, they need to, I think they need to pass a federal law requiring for federal elections, everybody do it the same way. Paper ballot, slide it through certain equipment, and boom, make it law. So, by midnight, everybody knows the outcome of a federal election, which happens every 2 years. So it's reoccurring serious business. And, there's in the federal government, I understand, there's like over 4.5 million people that work for the federal government. Now that's everything. That's including military and, the Pentagon and, Congress and all their aides and their offices and, the chief of staff. Every congressman has a chief of staff, right? Every congressman has, the head legal person. And then the legal person has 2 or 3 people that help research laws and all this. And everybody's working. It's amazing. Since my daughter worked, was hired by Clay Shaw, and the chief of staff actually hired her. And of course, whatever. Mary Kay McClure is the one that actually hired Robin. You're hired. Not you're fired, you're hired with an H. Yes, sirree, Bob. Robin sent me a picture of her outfit, and she had, a nice, deep navy suit, with a jacket and all this stuff. I mean, and a white silk, a dense white silk shirt, and and then she had a flag wrapped around her neck as an actual flag, a flag scarf. And it went around her neck and, and then it flopped out here, the stars and stripes and all this. So when she walked in there, I mean, this was like the banner girl of, someone who works in Capitol Hill, adorned with a flag. Mary, so she made quite an impression for everybody in the office. And then she got interviewed and all this. I mean, it's a federal job, so, she had to complete this I believe it's an FS1 federal, FS 171 form. It's been in existence for a very long time. It probably still exists, maybe version, 300, but FS 171, you got to fill it out. It's, geez, when I was put on the board of directors of a bank, I had to fill out the FS 171. And I wasn't applying for a job, I was applying for permission to be a director of a federally insured bank. So the federal government, they stick their fingers in everything. So I couldn't, I could be seated on the board of directors of this commercial bank, which I was, Southern Security Bank. And so you could conditionally be seated on the board, with conditionally meaning that if you weren't approved by, the the Federal Reserve, you get yanked from the board, and then you would not be a director anymore. They'd send a letter to the chairman of the bank and say, sorry, he's got 2 felonies, whatever. But huge background checks. The FBI gets involved. There are 11 federal agencies. You hear me? 11. Oh boy, such a and it takes like 4 months. FBI, you have to be fingerprinted. You have to have, a current photograph, like from a passport or something. Yeah, it's a big hassle becoming an officer of a bank, or an officer of a bank holding company, or chief executive. You could be on a board of directors, and then I was, before I resigned from Southern Security Bank and Southern Security Bank Corp., I was Chief Executive Officer and Vice Chairman. Yep. So those are it's almost a top job you can have. Phil Motter was chairman of the board of both, and I was vice chairman of the board of both. So he outranked me, which was fine. He was, fine gentleman. He's the one that actually hired me into whatever the heck it was called when the company just started, which he started, issued stock to himself, so he was 100% owner. And then he brought in Jimmy, and I bought stock, for 1/10 of a penny a share, whatever the par value was, some low number. Maybe it was a penny a share. I don't think it was $1 a share. It could have been, but I don't think so, because I don't remember spending an awful lot of dollars. But between the two of us, when you bring in other investors who write checks in excess of the par value of the stock, we were diluted. The two of us were diluted to 30%. And of course, I had half and he had half. So it was 15-15. Or maybe it was 16 or 17 each or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And Phil was, he said, he called me into a meeting. There were only 2 of us in the company. He said, Chip, could we have a meeting? He closed the door, please. Like there wasn't anyone else that could hear us, it was just the 2 of us. And so he said, he's so formal. So I sat down at his desk and he says, you are so much more than what I bargained for. I thought you'd just be a good senior lender or something, but you are so much more. You are. So I want you to have the exact same number of shares that I have. So would you make that happen? And of course, I was not only, so I was vice chairman of this company that only had 2 people, and we didn't have a bank yet. And so I was also the person that dealt with the stock register and the par value and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. You have the equity. You have to actually calculate the equity, the cash in the stock when you buy it, and you have to and then you have to take the par value. So if you had 10 shares and the par value was $1 and you had 10 shares, then you have to have $10 over in one account. And then if you paid over par, for example, let's say you paid $100 a share, well, $1 of it was par value, and the $99 was the equity account for the excess over par. You had to have two different general ledger accounts. Sorry, Bob, I learned that somewhere, So Bill Barnett was a renowned accounting CPA in the area. He did some of the largest tax returns in the country. Well, he did our tax return also and our financial statements, which we submitted quarterly to the Fed and to the state of Florida. Plus, we were a federally chartered bank, state chartered bank, I should say. Anyway, so we were out having cocktails one night, and he says, Jimmy, so he called me Jimmy. He said, Jimmy, you are the only company that I have audited that actually had the capital accounts proper. For some reason or other, people just didn't know how to do that, and I had to show them how to do it. You actually had it right. You had the par value over in one account, and you had the excess over par in another account. He said, this is the first time I've ever seen that done properly. Congratulations. I said, well, thank you, sir. That and 10 cents won't get you anywhere, but that was a nice... accountants don't pay people compliments very often. They kind of frown at you and, tell you what you don't want to hear. You don't know how to add, subtract, or whatever the heck you didn't do properly. Yep. Anyway, so we went through this one. The other thing I wanted to mention on this little chart, which is important, you see these, Jill Stein, she accrued 697,000 votes. No electoral votes, but 697,000 votes. About 0.5%. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would have been the right way to do his name. They don't have it right on this chart, but anyway, we'll just make note of that. 0 electoral votes, but 676,000 votes. Also about 0.5%. And then over here, Chase Oliver, a Libertarian Party person, he got 607,000 votes, about 0.4%. And then all other candidates, to be unnamed here, 353,000 votes, about 0.2%. Well, if you add that up, that's 0.5%, so 1%, and you have 6. So you have 1.6% of the voting population voted for people other than Donald and Kamala. Well, what if the election was closer? The way it stands right now, and I think these numbers will increase a bit because, everything in California has not been counted yet, nor with Arizona and Nevada. We know enough about all those to be able to count their electoral votes, preliminarily. This is all preliminarily, Associated Press approved numbers. So they called the election, for AP, Associated Press. They're the big kahunas. They're not part of the government or anything. They're just a news. Their wireline service. and provide news to, all the networks and the newspapers. A lot of other sources, but that's the AAP, Associated Press. They're the one that if something hits AP, if something happened in the country, good, bad, and different, just happened, then a story is written, could be written by the Associated Press, and boom, when they publish that story on, online, so to speak, used to be a telex, they had different ways, more primitive ways of delivering the news. Now they hit a button that goes right on the internet, and everyone receives the news at the same instant. Yeah. Well, anyway, so AP called the election because it was obvious that Trump had, 290 something electoral. You only needed 270, and he had like 290. So that put him insurmountable by Kamala. So he won the election. Now we have to wait for everybody to finish. It takes like a week after the election so that all the states, produce enough factual information so that we know what the exact count is. But there's 1.6% of the popular vote, which is, 7 and 7 is 14, 3 times 6 is 18, almost 2 million votes, a little over 2 million votes, probably, if you add all those up. Were voted for people other than Trump or Harris. Well, 2 million, so that's a lot of votes. That's 1.6%. If this election was really close, this is not, I don't think, I think this election was not close because, 50.5 to 47.9, a lot of times it's, 49.4 to 49.2, where it's, maybe 0.5% or 0.6%. This one is, 2.5 points spread. Well, remember, 1.6% here is, to the people that can't win. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Chase Oliver, and all these other candidates, too many to be named here, apparently, according to the Associated Press, this chart. So when the margin of victory is 2.5, and you have 2.6% in round numbers, and you got 2% that's floating around with 3 candidates that don't, that can't win. That's why, you just want to have 2 candidates instead of, because these 3 other people, they can't pledge their votes. They're non-transferable. You vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He tried to get off some ballots, and, like Pennsylvania wouldn't let him off. So people, would vote for somebody that can't win. Well, that's a wasted vote. If you know that these 2 on the top are really the only candidates that can win, you should vote for one of them, because one of them is going to be president. Not Chase Oliver, not Robert F. Kennedy, and not all these other candidates. So a protest vote that's just, pardon the expression, just pissing away a vote, whatever that means. You need to vote for someone that can win. A protest vote doesn't make the news, unless the protest vote was like 10% or something. But 0.5%, that's not a factor. It might be in a certain state, but it wouldn't be nationally. And in a national election, the state-by-state an electoral college win, for example, is for Florida. Who got the most votes in the state of Florida? Which one of these people? And Trump did. So therefore, he gets all of the electoral votes for Florida, which is like, I think, 29. So all 29 electors goes towards Trump. Yeah. And those electors are the ones that actually get carried into Congress and presented by the sitting VP, which in this case would be Vance, because by the time, let's see, how does that work? Congress gets seated. Yeah, Congress gets seated before the president is seated. Yeah. Because we have president-elect, and he's not president until, the 19th of January of 2025, which is 90 days after, the November election, 90 days and a few. But the Congress gets seated before the new president is, sworn in. Trying to think of all the right vocabulary words. Once he gets sworn in by the head of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, trying to get all these vocabulary words out there in case there's a quiz. There's a quiz on Wednesday, so you got to use the right words. So the Chief Justice then provides the oath of office, and he is sworn in by the Chief Justice. Put your hand on the Bible, please, and raise your left hand. Right hand on the Bible, left hand in the air. And then would you repeat after me? I, Donald J. Trump, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear that, you'll uphold the Constitution and yada, yada. So he reads off that, phrase by phrase, and the president repeats after him, phrase by phrase, until they get through the entire swearing in. And then the Chief Justice looks at Donald Trump in the eye and says, "Congratulations, Mr. President." And then at that instant, with that handshake, Donald John Trump becomes president. Not a moment before. He's president-elect. Until the Chief Justice says, "Congratulations," with that handshake. It's kind of very ceremonial, but very important, because up until that instant, and then, of course, the GSA is finishing up the packing of all the boxes in the White House, because at that instant, the Trumpers become residents of the White House, and all the other stuff has to be out of there. And the General Services Administration, they're packing boxes madly to get all that stuff and get all the furniture dusted off. I mean, it's like out with the old and in with the new. And it happens, bam, just like that. Within a couple hour period of time, all the other guys' stuff is out, and all the and there's a truck in the, with the back door, with all the Trump boxes ready to load it back in. And then the GSA unloads the boxes. They pack it up in there, from wherever they're, from stuff that they want to, move into, it more or less, toiletries, if you will. They're not going to move all the furniture from Mar-a-Lago into the White House. The White House furniture is the furniture in the White House. I guess you could add a chair somewhere, but it would have to be a chair that is, an inventory. not at Mar-a-Lago, because everything has to match, and it's all historical stuff. If a chair breaks, I guess they could rebuild the chair. But anyway, so it's really quite a. But not only that, there are. I mean, this is like it's pandemonium, when 19th of January happens, because the White House and the transition team and the president, they have 3,000 people that are appointed, using the proper vocabulary words here. There are 3,000 appointments. Some of the people stay and most of the people don't. Now, a lot of the people that are in the White House staff, for example, let's say, now I'm making this up because I actually don't know, but let's just play along with Jimmy here in our constitutional conversation here. Of the 3,000 appointments that have to be made, some people are reappointed for the new president. They're considered career, employees. Now, the transition team will be examining everybody that's in the 3,000 list of appointments, and the ones that are career, they're approved by the incoming president, and if that person is a spy, and I don't mean from a foreign government, I mean a spy like, you got Republican, you got the D's and the R's, right? So if that person is, not friendly to the Trump government that's being installed on, the day that the president gets sworn in and accepts the position, you can imagine. You go through all this and says, I refuse. That would be a mess. God, I don't know what the hell they do. Jeez. And if I don't even want to bring up that scenario. Anyway, so that's what happens on the day in January. So between now, you have a transition team that's working like crazy. We've heard about Wiles, right? That she just was offered a position of chief of staff, which is, a huge position. That's way up there in the top of the pyramid of the 3,000 appointments. Chief of staff is, like probably, it's right on top there with the, what do you call it? With the cabinet officers. Who's going to be the Secretary of Defense? Who's going to be the Secretary of, the Secretary of State, right? The Secretary of Health and Human Services. You have 16 cabinet positions, which I will not name right now because I don't think I'm capable of naming all 16. And I probably used the wrong vocabulary words if I tried. So let's just stay on point here. Anyway, so I just wanted to give you the vote total so far. That's as of this morning, as of 8 a.m., 74,650,754, 50.5%. And he has amassed 312 electoral votes. Now, if you add the both together, it's 538, right? 538 electoral votes, and that's all there is. Jill Stein, Kennedy, and Chase Oliver have neither of them amassed any electoral votes, which makes sense because it's all or none for the states on that. Let's see if I answer this call. If I can. Hello? Hold on one second. Hold on 1 minute. Can you hear me now? We're trying to... hold on 1 second.
Hello?
Hello? Yes.
Do you want to call me back?
I'm on... is it a fast Q&A?
Yeah, do you want me to pick you up for breakfast?
All right, why don't you sound real nice, because the entire world is hearing this call. Okay, that didn't go well. Put my headphones back on. She's at the... there we go. She's at the... what do you call it? There's a walkathon or something. Yeah, it's it's a Rotary. Gosh darn it, breast cancer. Something like that. So she's there out west, and she wants to know if she wants to pick me up for breakfast. We need a little attitude adjustment on that one. She got annoyed because I didn't answer her quickly enough, and I was trying to see if I could hear the call on my headphones, and I could not for some reason. Anyway, so I'll have the technical difficulties there. She got trapped in the middle of that, and I told her that there was 1.5 million people listening to her. She hung up on me. Don't you tell me. Well, it turns out that no one heard that, I don't think, because unless the speakerphone leaked through. Anyway, so she's apparently hot, uncomfortable or something. All right. So we're going through that electoral vote business. All right. So here's the map. This is the official map. I don't know how official it is, but this is the electoral vote. Until it's certified, each state has to certify the votes, and so sometime in the first week in January, all these results are marched into Congress, and Congress then ratifies all the certifications. Each state, the secretary of each state, the comptroller, whatever the name of that person is, state by state, and it's different. When we have commonwealths. You don't refer to Kentucky as the state of Kentucky. It's the Commonwealth, if you want to speak properly about what it is, its charter and all that. But we just show it on the map as KY, the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Yeah. So you can see the red or blue, because the popular vote for each state determines who gets the all or none of the electors for that state. And Florida is around 29, I think. It's growing. Every couple of years it adds another one, because so many people are moving to Florida from the Northeast, and they come down through I-75 down the middle, and they also come down I-95, and they generally move over to the East Coast. not 100%, but probably 70%, and 30% gets scattered all over the rest of the state of Florida. So there's a lot of migration into Florida because the climate is more enjoyable. And so Florida has, it was 27 and it's 28, so now I think it's around 29. I don't think they hit 30 yet. Hopefully. I'll have to look that up because I need to be informed. Anyway, so Florida's red, Georgia's red, Alabama red, North Carolina red. It's no pink, it's red or blue. That's it. And there's the two of them on the bottom of this pictorial, and we can see the electoral votes, 312 and 226. Now, all of the votes in Arizona, Nevada, and California, I'm not sure about Oregon and Washington, enough of the votes have been counted to know the electoral situation. So, like in California, let's say 75% of the votes have been counted. Well, it's like 80-20, Democrats to Republicans. So there was enough votes counted where the other party couldn't have won the electoral college, so it was given to California. The election was called, as they say, called for Kamala Harris. So she gets all of 54 or 53 of the electors for California. There are actually people that are considered electors, and those people are selected by the legislatures. I mean, it's really if you read the Constitution, it's spelled out. I have right here. There is a copy of my Constitution right here. Look at that, and all 27 amendments, and I have a little piece of tape here that keeps it closed. Yeah. Thank you very much. Turning Point USA was kind enough to send me one of these. I think I have 3 of them, and I have another dozen in my office here, or den, whatever you want to call this little area that I control. It's the only area that I solely control. Anyway, Turning Point USA sent me a few of these this year. Yep. It's amazing. And it's all the Constitution's handwritten. This is a, transcription of everything that was handwritten. But I carry this in my pocket everywhere I go. In case I ever get in a conversation about the Constitution, I can pull it out of my pocket and clarify. And it's all written out exactly how you do all this stuff. It's amazing that, and everybody thought about it very carefully, with the founders of our country. It wasn't just one guy sitting in a dark room. And they, then they would change it and they'd edit it. And of course, every time they did that, and then, whoever actually wrote it, is one of the founders, actually hand wrote it with a pen and ink on the parchment. Thomas Jefferson, one of them. I think if I had to guess one, it would be he. Anyway, so by this time next week, we should have all these votes and things. 100% of the votes should be in. Now, it's not 100%, until the secretary, the state official certifies the election, and the exact total is then presented to Congress. So sometime, before January, we'll know those numbers. And my guess is it'll be, um, in several weeks. And then, then you got to count, the provisional ballots. You can call the election because the provisional ballots may not be in large enough quantity to make a change in the result of the election, right? So that's why they count all the other ballots first. And then they get to the provisional ones one by one, sometime usually after, the election has been called for that state. That's how that goes, if you were wondering. And there's Elon Musk. There's a picture there you see. He's jumping in the air with excitement to be, have 30,000 people cheering on President-elect there with a bulletproof thing surrounding him by 180 degrees. And you got there's Elon. I think, usually these people that, support a candidate don't have a lot of influence. I imagine, if you're on the hedge, I can't imagine you'd be on the hedge, on the fence, voting which way or the other. The media kept on interviewing people that say that, well, I'm not undecided. How the hell can you be undecided? If you don't have enough intellectual curiosity to have this figured out by now, by November 5th, you're probably not going to vote. You're probably going to be on the couch. Because why the hell would you go vote if you don't have a clue who you'd vote for? And unless you live underneath a rock, or you just flew back from Pluto, planet Pluto, I can't imagine how you're undecided. You look at that person, they interview some of these people and say, really? You don't have enough intellectual curiosity to have this thing kind of figured out in your head by now? Next. But, I guess they want to get on TV. So, Elon Musk contributing huge sums of money, which is true. He pledged, he said, I'm going to give you President Trump, I'm going to pledge $45 million a month. And he paid it in. He paid in, like just under 140 million. So he made 3 of those payments, apparently. He probably has another one to pay, because I think he made that remark more than 90 days before the election. But I may not. Maybe it was a 3-month kind of a thing. Although he didn't say 3 months. He just said, I'm going to pay 40. So you would assume just before the election that the meter stops. Yeah, 45 million a month. I don't know how you come up with that number. So it's an odd number. Anyway, so he did a lot of campaigning all through Pennsylvania. He spent a lot of time on a podium, even when the president wasn't there. I don't know what size crowd he drew, but yeah, that's it. All right, so this is a special edition on Sunday, since Marilyn went off to help in the tent where they hand out the bottles of water, and people walk for breast cancer. Corporations will pay, like 10 cents a mile for how many miles you walk. So if you walk, 10 miles, the company gives $1 towards the charity that you're doing this for. They may have the whole company doing that. They may spend 50 cents a mile. It might be $1 a mile. Anyway, so there are people at the tent that keep track of your name and submit your mileage and all that kind of stuff. It has to be a little accounting. And anyway, so she left here at 6:30 in the morning, so she could be at the tent at 7 when they start handing out, the registering the contributors to this particular charitable event. All right, so it's almost 10 o'clock in the morning. With the special edition, I'm going to hang it up, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9:15 sharp. Marilyn said it's very important. You got to have the same time every time. So we'll put it out for a vote. Who wants 9 o'clock or 9:15? But until I hear further, 9:15 is going to be our airtime, because that way I can get all my stuff set. Since it's just me, myself, and I dealing with this. Look at this picture. This is quite, as a photographer, look at that. That guy from Ole Miss, he is in the air. He's trying to get as many yards as he can. And he is airborne. You can see the grass coming off his cleats. That's a sport that you can get damaged. Look at the pieces of the dirt. I mean, that is quite a piece of photography, right? Well, I've taken a few pictures, a couple that look like that, of the millions of pictures I've taken. And it is, I have 400,000 of them published on my site. 416-1100.com. There's over 400,000 pictures on display in 30, let's say 35 different categories. I got over 50,000 FAU football ones. I've kind of hung it up on the FAU football side because, I'm crowding 80. I'm not there. And, the sun and the heat and, I don't want to do it. That's too much for me, I think. I don't want to risk having some kind of a cardiac event. I don't even want to use the word. Yeah, we don't want any cardiac events. So I said, Marilyn, you know what? I got the permits or the credentials. I got the parking pass, from Katrina. I think I'm just going to send her an email and say, you know what? I think we'll cover. I think I'm going to cease to cover football. And they've gotten so picky about who owns the photographs, and I'm not going, I'm not going to agree to that condition where they own the photographs, even though I took them. My camera, my everything, and it's their photograph. No. I mean, I've given them 100%. That's how the document reads. I signed a document that says we co-own it. Yeah, I don't know what the hell that means, but I'm not giving up ownership of the photographs. I'll give you one. You can use it any way you see fit, but I still own them. So, the legal department stepped one step too far. If that provision wasn't in there, I'd probably give it another season. But with that in there, I'm saying, what the hell with it? I've had enough. We've given them 50,000 digital images with their unexclusive use. Unexclusive, but they can use it any way they see fit. They can publish it again. They can, do anything they want with them. But when they start saying they're mine, meaning theirs, no. Sorry. Yeah. No, sorry. So that's this was my last year. So I'm going to shoot. Maybe I'm going to shoot basketball. That provision, carries through with any sport that I do for them. But you get special privileges. You get the photo credentials, so you don't have to pay $100 to go see the thing, or $200 or $300 or whatever the charge is to get in the stadium. But I'll just ask for a couple passes if we feel like watching a game, not actually photographing it. As a professional photographer, even though we not get paid. I never even got any recognition. I mean, these people are, they're so full of themselves. You'd think they'd get a letter that says, "Thank you very much for doing this for 24 years." No, not even a letter. Well, what are you gonna do? All right, so listen, we'll see you tomorrow at 9:15. Bye-bye.